Do you need your flute or is that for later?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. So this morning I wanted to talk about a book that I read once. It was called Gung Ho, and the story there was about a woman who worked for a company and she received a promotion. And a promotion is when you get a different job that has more responsibility and usually a lot more money. So she was really excited to get this promotion, and she was promoted to be the head of a big plant, which is like a factory, a place where they make things. And she went to the plant on the first day, full of excitement, and she looked around at the plant, and the only people that worked at the plant were grumpy, upset, angry people, and the entire plant was failing. And she realized that she had been promoted into a position because they really didn't want the plant to succeed. So she knew that basically the plant was going to fail. She looked at all the departments in the plant, and there was one department that functioned well. One. It was the finishing department. It was where the products went just before they were sent off to the customers. And she went to that department, and she had to find out from the person who was in charge of that department, how are you successful in a plant that is failing? And all the people in that department were happy. They were getting along, they were glad to go to work, and she asked him, he was Native American, to share with her how he made that department function. Was it working so well? And he said, if you really want to know, meet me Friday afternoon and I'm going to take you to a cabin in the woods. And she really did want to know. So she met him, they drove in his truck out to a cabin in the woods, and he said, my grandfather shared the way of the squirrel, the way of the beaver, and the way of the goose. And that is what I put right into my department, and that's why it works. So each week she would go with him on Friday afternoons, and he would teach her a new way. So the first way that he taught her was the way of the squirrel. And they sat and they watched the squirrels running up and along, in and out of the forest, and they would go to the feeder and they would get the seeds, or they would go get the acorns, back and forth. There was nothing that could have stopped those squirrels because they knew that their work was important. Squirrels know that what they are doing matters because they're getting ready for winter, and even if they can't find those nuts, they're planting trees with those acorns. So the first thing that he did in his department was he showed people that their work mattered. And you, being a kid, your work matters. Everything you do right now and the learning that you do in school is going to help the world someday. So you have to know that everything that you do is learning for tomorrow. So the next time that she went out with him, he taught her the way of the beaver. Now, beavers are really fascinating. We had beavers behind our house for many years, and the thing about beavers is they get to pick their own sticks and they put them where they want. And no other beaver will take the stick of another beaver and move it. Now, when Michael and I were first married, we would decorate the Christmas tree, and he would walk away, and I would move all his ornaments the way I wanted, because I didn't have the way of the beaver in my heart, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. So the way of the beaver is that you let people be their own boss. There are no bossy beavers. So you're doing important work like the squirrels, and you're not a bossy beaver. You honor how other people do things. And the last way is the way of the goose. So if you look up into the sky, you will see, the V of the goose that are flying, the geese, or sometimes it looks like a check mark because it's a little bit uneven. Sometimes you only see 2 or 3 geese flying. And if you stand there and listen, a lot of times you'll hear honking. So you might think, when you hear that honking, that they're saying, go left, are we there yet? Why do we have to fly south every year? Come on. But really what they're doing is they're shouting encouragement to each other. And when the lead goose gets tired, they fall back and somebody else takes their spot. So they're saying, way to go, you're amazing. I can't believe you've flown in the lead that long. So that was important. And I'll tell you that the woman who learned this from this Native American man took all of those things back to the plant. She brought all the managers into the office and she said, you can either do it this way the way of the squirrel, the way of the beaver, and the way of the goose, or you can leave today. And a lot of people left, but some stayed. And that plant became the #1 plant in the entire company because they put those practices into play. And you can do that in your family, and you can do that in your church, and you can do that at school, and it will make a big difference. Amen.
Amen.